Well, welcome to another installment of Pilot Plane Panel. I'm your host, David Weber, and I've got to the right of me, Rick Harbert, and behind us is a 1980 Cessna TR182. And Rick has just completed the install of a Dynon panel, and we're going to talk all about the plane. But first of all, Rick, tell us about you. Give us a little background on what you are.
I've been flying since 1992, and I'm a mechanical engineer by degree and license, and I found this to be just an exceptionally interesting project, and I wanted to update the panel in my TR182, and so that's exactly what I did.
And when did you acquire the plane?
A little over 2 years ago.
Okay.
I flew it for a while and found that some of the instruments just weren't working correctly and didn't give me the information I really had to have in order to be safe. And so I decided I'd start looking around for equipment. I was already aware of a number of the manufacturers, and I went and looked actually at what some people had done with their panels and then concluded what I wanted to do. And
well, it's a gorgeous airplane. I don't know if it looked like this when you got it, but it sure looks beautiful now. And the work you did on the panel was absolutely amazing. I've been in love with the plane since I saw it first. But getting back to more of you, How did you start your pilot journey? What got you into flying?
I had friends who were pilots and felt a little bit of peer pressure, but on the other hand, as an engineer, it just intrigued me, all of the technology that was in it. And so I went for rides with my friends, and that's what hooked me. No question about it.
What was your first plane then?
My first airplane was a 1980 also, Piper Turbo Saratoga.
That's a heck of an airplane for a first plane.
Yeah, you won't believe it, but I bought it just before I got my private pilot license. And
was this something you stumbled into, or were you actually out actively looking for the plane?
The whole time I was training, I was looking.
Okay.
A 152 is a great airplane to train in, but you can't carry your family in it. And so that's what I needed.
Needed something to put the family in and go around. So during your piloting, when you were doing all your training, were you thinking IFR rating, commercial rating, all this along the line? Because I know you told me a pretty good story about the commercial rating.
Yes, to all the above. I knew that I'd be a much better pilot if I did get an instrument rating. It makes you more precise and accurate in your flying. And it opened the door to me, of course, flying into some weather, not all, but some. And I used that, no question about it. And then because of the success in getting an instrument rating and it actually making me a better pilot, I went on and trained to become a commercial pilot. And I took the written and passed it. A week before I was going to do the flight test, I had learned from my insurance broker that my insurance rates would triple, and because I could then carry people for hire and also cargo for hire, and I had the desire to do neither of those. And so I decided, I'm not going to take the practical test, even after spending the time and money to become a commercial rated pilot. Again, it made me a better pilot. So I'm glad I did it. I just wish the insurance situation wasn't what it was.
Yeah, well, we all deal with those kind of things in the aviation world. So looking at your IFR rating, did that have any sort of impact on the instrumentation that you were going to put in the plane?
Absolutely. My desire was accuracy and reliability. So I had to have some redundancy. I had to have instruments that I could understand quickly because I'm scanning the whole time.
Right.
And if you fixate on one instrument, you know what the result of that is. So you're looking at different instruments, and being in the green is important. Sometimes you need to actually know the numerical value, the quantitative value. So I do that as well, especially regarding heading and altitude.
Okay.
And those are critical, obviously. And so the equipment I selected did exactly that. And the redundancy, of course, is that I have two SkyView HDXs in there, and the biggest screens I could put in the panel.
Great. And being a pilot in the Pacific Northwest, we often have layers here, and having that IFR rating along with an IFR capable airplane just makes it great for getting out of here on those days that it's a 3,000 foot layer, but everything's sunny on the other side of the mountains.
As soon as you get on top, you know why you took the time and spent the money to get an instrument rating. It's just breathtaking for the first time when you climb through a marine layer and you get on top, and then you understand why it was all worth it.
It's beautiful here in the Northwest. We often complain about the weather and the drizzly, but you can't beat a sunny day here in the Pacific Northwest, which is where Dynon's based and where this beautiful airplane is based. Mm-hmm. All right, well, let's start talking a little bit about the airplane. So Rick, tell me, why the Cessna TR182? What made you go with the Cessna TR182 in your decision making?
A couple of factors. I think that first and foremost, it needed to have 4 seats, so I could take 4 people. It's got a lot of flexibility, so I can load it differently. Obviously, carry less fuel, more weight, more passengers, more cargo, that kind of thing. And then the flexibility. It's extremely reliable, I think, because you're turning a large cubic inch engine slowly, and so it isn't working that engine very hard, but get very good fuel economy with it. And so I think overall it was a very good choice.
I think it's an excellent choice. Mm-hmm. Excellent choice. So tell me a little bit about the paint job on the plane. Is this the original paint job, or has it been repainted?
Only the fuselage has been repainted, and it was repainted because there was some damage done in an over-rotation many years ago.
Oh, an over-rotation, not a belly up, huh?
No, over-rotation.
Wow, that's pretty unusual.
Yeah, and so the fuselage was repainted. The wings, however, are original paint, as is the horizontal stabilizer.
Wow, so this thing must have been hangared and babied its whole life then, because most planes that sit out on a tarmac don't look as good as this.
I think there were, it's either 5 or 6 previous owners, and every one of them, as nearly as I can tell based on the logbooks, had it in a hangar.
Wow, that's great. And the interior, I know you did a lot of repair and rework on the interior, but that can't be the original interior that's in there.
That's correct. It's not. It was updated in, I believe it was 2002.
Still over 20 years old.
Yes.
That's pretty good interior for 22-year-old interior. So
yes,
gorgeous stuff. What were some of the things that you ended up fixing on the interior?
I think every Cessna owner, probably every aircraft owner, ultimately deals with cracked or failed plastic. The glare shield was a good example of the repair work that I did. It had very large cracks in some places and smaller cracks in others, and so I fixed all of that.
What was the repair process in doing that? How did you end up fixing those?
I used what's called a hot staple repair process. They also refer to as plastic welding. And then once you staple it across the cracks with a, looks like a heat gun, only it's got probes sticking out of it, and heats up, looks like a wavy wire. You bridge the crack with that. It provides structural reinforcement across the crack, and then you can go ahead and fill that in with vinyl that you heat up, and it's
almost like a glue gun kind of a thing, right?
It is. That's exactly right. And it's remarkably effective. You can actually make it look like it has the same texture that it had.
It's really hot. It's hard to spot unless you point it out. So that's great.
Oh, thank you.
So what other things did you work with your IA mechanic on repairs? Was there anything else that you had to work on?
I actually worked with 2 different IAs, but the process was I'd read as much as I could,
Mm-hmm.
study it, evaluate it, think about what I wanted to do from an ergonomic standpoint, as an example, in laying out the panel, and then I'd talk with the IA about it. Do you see any questions I'd asked were of the character, do you see anything here that doesn't make as much sense to you as it does to me?
Right.
Or do you see something that would be not in compliance with federal aviation regulations? And that's one thing that I found to be well documented in Dynan's instructions, was they tell you the field of view, the number of degrees of angle that you can put instruments in, and so forth. And so that's an example of the number of different constraints that you want to make sure you pay attention to.
Great. Well, let's talk a little bit more about that panel. Let's get some shots in there. All right, so you made a decision on your airplane. Did the avionics come after that decision, or did you know that you had avionics that you wanted to put into a particular airplane? Was it avionics first or airplane first?
Well, I'm comfortable flying a six-pack, a conventional six-pack of instruments. The problem I had was that a number of the instruments didn't work or didn't work accurately. And so when I bought the airplane, I needed to make a decision as to whether I was going to invest in those instruments and have them repaired, or simply update.
So it wasn't in your mind to, like, I am going to upgrade this panel. It was more of, I bought the airplane, I need to decide whether I'm going to invest in what's there or go ahead and upgrade. And what did you find out in that investigation? Because I know you're a thorough guy. When it comes to spreadsheets, I know nobody better than Rick on spreadsheets. So
when you look at the value of the improvements in technology, that was ultimately the deciding factor for me. No question about it, because I can bring up a six-pack electronically in the SkyView HDX, or I could have stayed with what I had. But let's face it, it's really old technology, what's been around, and for a change, I actually had more money than time. And so, but it really wasn't so much, in all honesty, the money, it was the safety.
Okay.
No question about it. You gain so much in safety that that was also another primary deciding factor.
Yeah, everything from more sensors to audible alerts along, with those sensors, monitoring all 6 cylinders, monitoring all 6 exhaust temperatures along those lines.
In a TR182, carb temperature is an issue because it's a carbureted 0540 that has a turbocharger added to it. You need to know what the carb temperature is, because you need to apply carb heat at the right times to avoid carb icing.
Yeah, you almost have to be ahead of it, right?
Yes. And now I've got that instrumented accurately.
Great. Yep. Well, the other thing that we want to talk a little bit more about is exactly how you went around putting the equipment into the panel, and we'll get into that in the next session. So, Rick, looking at your panel here, tell us a little bit about the instrumentation that you've got in it.
As you can see, there's the centerpiece really for the pilot and co-pilot are the SkyView HDXs, and these are the 10-inch screens. And then to the left of the pilot SkyView HDX is the backup for those, and that's the EFIS D10A. And so it shows you the attitude, airspeed, altitude, and so forth. So you can fly the airplane in case everything stops. And you've got a long time before that would occur.
Right, you've got triple redundancy, plus you've got the Avidyne 550 in there, which even gives you more in that respect.
That's correct. And I chose the 550 because it also has AHRS, Attitude Heading Reference System. So I get a redundant feature to the attitude information shown on the SkyView HDXs first, and then also on the backup, the D10A.
So the audio panel, why'd you go with the PS Engineering?
Yes, that's the 450B, and I believe that's their most advanced audio panel available. It has some proprietary stereo segregation. So if you have a stereo headphone, you can listen to 2 channels at once, and your mind actually segregates them and can focus on the one that's of most interest to you. And that's the only one that I've found that does that. And then there's programmable features in it, so I can listen to the overhead speaker, like if I'm listening to ATIS or ASOS, and then still listen to ATC in addition to that. And I can also listen to multiple frequencies over the headphones.
So tell us a little bit about the location of the instrumentation and why you chose those locations. The panels, the autopilot panel and the knob panel and the comm panel, along with your navigator and the screens.
I wanted to make sure that everything was within easy reach and that it was logical. And so that's why I put my Dynon comm down below here, because it's enunciated up on the SkyView HDX, and yet if I want to take advantage of the features of that comm, whether I want to immediately get the tower frequency or ATIS, ground, ATC, and so forth, I just push a button there and it's in my standby, and then I'll just go ahead and move it into the active.
So you're talking about the Dynon integration with the radio that allows you to push frequencies off of the information page and map page of the HDX.
That's correct. And it's extremely smart, believe it or not. It allows you to immediately get, within a very short period of time, the frequency that you're looking for. If you want ATIS, you just push the button.
Compared to the old days where we had to flip open charts and map books to figure out what those frequencies were.
That's right, and invariably you're in turbulence, so you're fumbling around trying to find it. And this just simplifies life considerably. So to finish on the point regarding why I put these where I did, again, I looked for guidance in the FARs and then also in Dynon's installation manual. And then, of course, in talking with the IA that I worked with, this is where we concluded it made the most sense, given the constraints of the cowl and the structural reinforcement for the panel itself.
Which is what is complemented in the Dynon installation manual, is exactly what we talked about there. Minimal structure, interference, and there are solutions out there. You chose not to go with one of those solutions. You chose to go ahead and do it along with your IA, that you could figure out everything that had to go in and fit it into the panel. This is a nice big panel on this airplane, which is nice. Some others, the panel gets a little tight, so there are other solutions, third-party solutions out there on the market.
You know, something that I'd add to the ergonomics is that the original factory 182 on the co-pilot side has a 5/8" offset in the middle of the panel, and I couldn't have that. So this is all flat panel, and so I structurally reinforced what was there, again in consultation with the IA that I was working with, and in accordance with the FARs. And now I have a flat panel, and so I can go ahead and put the SkyView HDX in there, and it has a complete flat surface to install against.
So the components such as the remote transponder, the radio, where did those end up?
The transponder and the radio are actually sitting right behind this blank panel, and so I can access them just by removing the blank panel. And there's a snap ring, so to speak, a spring clip type installation where they lock down with that spring clip. You just simply move the spring clip away, pull it toward you, disconnect the D-sub connector, and you got it.
Did you end up using one of Dynon's pre-made trays for that?
Yeah, why reinvent the wheel? There was no question. It was an easy decision to do that. And the same thing with the SkyView HDX. it's all of the components. You don't see it here, but I could show you pictures of it, where all of the equipment that's used to provide information, the engine monitoring system as an example, the ADAHRs, you just go right down the list. They're sitting in trays behind these SkyView HDX panels.
And again, you use the Dynon prefab for that.
That's correct. Yeah. Very well designed, easy to use, and just made life a lot simpler.
So tell me a little bit about how you set up the power requirements for the HDX system. How did you end up putting the breakers and the switches in?
Again, complying with the FARs and talking with the IA that I was working with, I had the idea that I would move the original Cessna avionics panel that was located near my left knee, so the pilot's left knee. And I understand why they put it there. You simply didn't have enough room left in the panel with the original steam gauges. And so now that I had the SkyView HDXs with the substantial amount of information, far more than what I could have obtained previously, but it's in a more compact space. And so it gave me the room to go ahead and move the avionics panel from my left knee to up next to where my instruments are and where my left hand would normally reach it. And so it made for a much cleaner installation. And I replaced the breakers at the same time with the Clixon push-pull breakers.
Great choice.
7277s. And so I can, if something, if a breaker pops, I can immediately see what it is. I don't have to strain myself in order to try and find it, especially at night. I mean, that's just not going to happen.
And the autopilot, power to the autopilot servos, how'd you end up routing those and wiring those up?
They're also on their own separate breakers, the roll servo and the pitch servo. You can use Dynon's standard wiring harness, and it's prefabricated, so it makes life a lot easier.
It's got the correct gauge of wire that make your up to your 30-foot run.
Correct. And the servos are located remotely, so you're going to use a lot of that wire, and it isn't just a straight run. You've got to go around different parts of the wing and the aft fuselage section. And then, of course, when you get into the panel itself, you need to leave enough extra length so that you can pull out the avionics panel and change a breaker if that's what you need to do. And so I've got extra length in there, so I can just simply remove these 4 screws, pull it back, and work on it.
Yeah, very important that installers use service loops for that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay, Rick, tell us a little bit about your experience with the installation instructions that you and your IA worked on and actually installing the autopilot servos.
So we're underneath the left wing, and you can see an inspection plate's been removed, and you can see the roll servo, in this case the guard on the roll servo, and the actual motor is right behind it. And what happened here was that I had to replace the original roll servo, and it required a different mounting location from the previous autopilot, which was an older analog autopilot, and it didn't work all that well, to tell you the truth. So I was thankful that Dynon had put together a very detailed layout of what was necessary in order to install this roll servo. It was the dimensions were accurate. It was time consuming, but it did go in exactly as they had it shown. And then coincidentally, during the time in which this installation was done, and I had very good people helping me on this, obviously the IA as well, but there was a technical service bulletin that came out which added some features to the roll servo, and so I went ahead and pulled the roll servo back out. It doesn't take that long once you've done it, and so you know exactly what's there. and you go ahead and pull it out and added the features, the cable guard and so forth that they wanted installed. And so it then went back together per the drawings provided.
And what was included in that kit, both the initial installation and the service bulletin? Did you find the kit to be complete and comprehensive?
Anybody who has worked with the Dynon equipment that I purchased will tell you that Dynon bends over backward to provide all the parts you need. And coincidentally, I had cut a bridle cable too short. So I got on the phone with him, told him exactly what I needed, and I had it within just a matter of hours.
Well, hey, Rick, thanks for showing us your airplane. This is an absolutely beautiful airplane. You've done an amazing job, and I hope your experience with not only the installation, but the company was a positive one.
You know, I'm glad that we touched on this point. I have to say that it's been just a first-rate experience working with the people at Dynon. When I had problems or issues, they were there, no question about it. And I didn't get put on a lengthy hold or anything like that. They got back to me, whether it was a call or a detailed description by email. They responded that same day, and they had the answers. And overall, I couldn't ask for anything better, in all honesty. I've talked with other avionics manufacturers from previous airplanes I've owned, and it's just a far superior experience.
Well, great. I appreciate that. Look forward to seeing more of your progress in the future.
Okay, Dave. I'll keep working on it.
Thanks for watching this pilot plane panel video featuring Rick Harbert and his 1980 Cessna TR182. The response to our previous video has been overwhelming. The plan is to make more like it, and we'd like to know if you are enjoying them. Let us know in the video comments. If you have an interesting pilot plane panel aircraft that you would like us to highlight, send us an email to mypanel@dynon.com. If you haven't already subscribed to the Dynon YouTube channel, please do so now and select the notification button so that you will be alerted to new content when it appears. I would also like to encourage you to jump on over to the Dynon website to check out the latest news and information on Dynon's ever-evolving product line. Our mission at Dynon is to create the best avionics and aircraft systems for light aircraft. Dynon is a worldwide leader for avionics systems in light sport, experimental, and certified aircraft with a fleet of over 25,000 aircraft and growing. This has been your host, David Weber. See you on the next installment of Pilot Plane Panel.